Welcome to the Sunshine Junkie podcast. Part genius, part ridiculous, but all Florida. Now your host, Chad Crawford and Katie Schroeder.
Yum, yum, yum. My mic is like chocolate flavored. You have a flavored mic? Smell it, taste it?
Well, I just put this on, so it's very strawberry, watermelon.
Are you ready, Katie?
Yes.
Hair, makeup, wardrobe?
I'm not wearing any makeup.
No. So we're talking about kids today, which is we both have kids.
We do.
Mine are a little older. Where's my wallet? Let me get this one.
Oh, boy. For the listeners, Chad has just gotten up to find his wallet, which he usually doesn't know where it is. So this is actually nice. Is there still an air tag in it? Are you able to ping it nowadays?
An air tag in it.
Okay, good.
But, you know, one of the things that I grew up with was, and maybe some people who are a little older, is dad always had photos of his kids in his wallet.
Yep.
That big old fat wallet that had that little photo album, flippy.
Now you don't need that because we have phones that have 13,000 pictures of our kids in it. So,
but I can never find pictures of my kids on my phone fast enough.
Oh,
so
boy.
I have pictures.
oh, wow. Okay.
These are all my kids.
No, they're not. There's only 3 of them.
I am missing one, Ted Gummit.
You're missing Cooper.
I'm missing Cooper.
Sorry, Cooper.
Yeah, buddy.
You didn't make the cut.
I need to get a photo of you. Just pretend like this is Cooper here. Okay. I have 4 kids.
So for the listener, if you're not watching the video edit of this, there's Casey, Kendall, Chase, and a Discover Florida Channel card.
Sorry, Coop. I'm gonna get a photo of you.
Okay.
But you know, I like carrying pictures of my kids in my wallet, and I have their birth dates on the back here because I've been in many situations at some medical facility where some lady's like, "Well, I need the birth dates of your kids." Well, I don't know when my kids were born. I'm assuming you do, but like, I don't know. Am I just weird in that? Like, do most dads not know when their kids were born, their birth date? Am I normal or am I weird?
I think you're at the age now to where it's just like, it's not something in repetition for you all the time.
Right.
So of course it's not.
My point is I've written them down because I do feel like I need to know the day my kids were born. And I know it now because I have it written down in my wallet.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're talking about kids today.
We are.
I have 4 kids. You have 2 kids, Jack and Wes. How old are they?
Jack is about to turn 7 and Wes is 3.5.
Okay. Well, and we're talking about The Outsiders Club, which was a series that we produced. I want to say we started producing it 8 years ago, and we produced 4 seasons of it. And it is, without a doubt, my favorite series.
Just from when I started working with you, I think this is the series that is nearest and dearest to your heart.
Yes.
And as we started producing it, you know, it's just the content of it and where it comes from is just really special to you.
Yeah.
And I think people deserve to know kind of where did that come from. I think the idea from this series is really interesting. So, Chad, where did the idea from this series come from?
Well, it started with me reading a book by Richard Louv, who is the author of the book called Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. And just that title alone is scary as hell, that there is this thing of nature deficit disorder. Now, that's not an official diagnosis, but it's very real. Richard brought together all these studies and everything that we knew at the time about the effects of really just our kids not being outside, our kids not being in the woods, and how that's affecting them. And the book just like blew me away. You know, I think in anybody's life, you look back and there's these books, I think, that were really critical and like, you know, really changing the way you think about something or shifting your worldview. And that book did it for me. And I put that book down. I was like, holy crap. I had young kids at the time. And at the time I also was seeing how specifically my boys were so captivated with video games. And it was getting harder and harder for me to get them outside and to kind of invite them into adventure, which I had so many great memories growing up with my dad and my family, camping and fishing. And I wanted that for my boys and my whole family. But it's hard,
Yeah.
today having that was very difficult. And I said, look, if I'm struggling with this, the host of, How to Do Florida, this outdoorsman who lives and breathes this, if I'm struggling with this, imagine the single mom living in an apartment with two or three kids, good luck. And so I was like, what can I do to help people see what this looks like and understand this better? So that's where the idea of The Outsiders came from. A kids show, an outdoor kids show, kids teaching kids. I said, I want to hear kids' voices. I don't want to hear adults' voices. And I want them to kind of be, the goal was I want to make outdoors look cool again.
Yeah.
Because, we were growing up, there was nothing cool inside. There was lame adults and crappy TV and the fridge. Everything that was cool was outside. That was this whole world that was waiting to be explored. And now that's flipped. Everything cool for a kid is inside.
Right.
Insane video games, great snacks, comfort, air conditioning. There's so many reasons to stay inside and so few to go outside.
Well, and let's kind of address that elephant in the room, though. You're creating a television show that either a kid or a parent is going to sit and watch on a screen.
Yeah, my son Chase, we were driving somewhere on the way to shoot one of the episodes, and we were looking at some of his lines, and we were just sitting there. He was kind of quiet, and he's like, Dad, I was just thinking that, it kind of feels weird sometimes that you're making a TV show about being outside, but it's a TV show that you watch inside. It's all I could do at the time. This is what I do. I make television, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to make a show about kids being outside and go from there.
So how did you guys really start that first season? What was that first season like?
Yeah, the original idea for the show was that it was these kids who kind of stumbled upon this book from generations past, and they found this old chest, which I still have today, and they open it up, and there's this book, and there's dust on it, and they open it up, and there's like all these cool things. These kids had kind of chronicled their outdoor experiences in this book, and these modern day kids kind of stumble upon it, and it just this springboard for adventure and building and creating things. And, the format changed a little bit once I got sponsors involved and realized what I really needed to do to make all this work. But that was the original idea.
God, that's just kind of like very Goonies-esque. Like every kid's dream is just to like find something and just be like, what is this? Let's go figure this out.
Yeah. I can remember that as a kid, like, wandering on to as kids, we love construction sites. We were drawn to construction sites, right? And as a kid, we built ramps. So construction sites had plywood, and plywood was expensive. And so we would sneak in there and steal plywood, but it was just a cool thing to explore. There's cool bolts everywhere, there's concrete and tools, that idea of like finding something, and that was kind of part of that initial episode or pilot episode we did.
Oh my God, I had one of the most epic mud fights.
Yes.
On a like construction site, or like someone was building a house down the street.
Big piles of dirt. Yeah.
Huge rain just came through, and me and my friends were just walking down the street, and we're like, we're going to have a huge mud fight. And then afterwards we went to my house and just hosed each other off afterwards. And my mom, it was like a sleepover night. She was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
We're like, we just had a mud fight. And she was like, come in, get some towels, dry off. Here's some snacks. Go watch a movie. It's amazing.
To this day, nothing brings back childhood memories like driving down the road and seeing a big pile of dirt.
Oh,
there's just like, as a kid, there's nothing better. Like,
relate.
Yeah. They're just
want to climb up right to the top.
Yeah.
You've always said the Outsiders Club isn't just for kids to sit there and watch kids have a fun time, but it's an educational tool for them. But it's giving parents ideas of what to do and where to go.
Yeah.
Especially when you got the sponsorship with Florida State Parks. Oh my gosh, you got to highlight all of these cool state parks. And that's where parents, if they're sitting there watching it or, walking by as they're cleaning dishes or whatever,
Yeah.
they're like, how cool would it be to go there with my kid and go geocaching, or to go there and go horseback riding with my kid? Like, okay, that's what we're going to do this weekend.
That was a big breakthrough for the show, was getting Florida State Parks as a sponsor, because that gave us a kind of a launching pad for people. And state parks are easy. They're set up, they're designed so that you can go there and have a somewhat of a controlled outdoor experience. It's not the wild, wild west. You're not just going out in the woods. There's a gate with a gate guard, and there's parking, and there's facilities. Concession. Like, it's very, it's set up for you to have a successful outdoor outing with your family. That's what State Parks does. Living in Florida, we have access to the best parks in the world.
Absolutely.
And that was such a great place for us to point people to go. This is what this looks like, and now go and do it. So that was huge.
But behind all of this was really encouraging kids to get outside, to get off your screen.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just been so important for you, not only with your family, but encouraging other families. Like, how have you been doing that just outside of your work to encourage other families to get your kids off screens?
One of the things one rule that I live by with my kids, which has really helped kind of guide and start that conversation with my kids, is I use this thing where I walk in and I talk to them about what their day was and what they did. And, we talk about screen time, and I'll say, well, how much of that time was consuming and how much of that time was creating. And for the kids, they really get that. They understand that, like, because a lot of what they consume are other people creating. And so, like, are you someone who is just consuming, or are you creating? Because look, we're not going to get kids off their phones. So what good can come from that? What can they do that stimulates them, that enriches their life? And so that's the conversation that I'm constantly having with my kids. And when I talk and teach about this, like, that's my main principle, is that, social media, all this stuff is not going away, but how do we use it to where it enhances our life and it doesn't just become this drag and this pit that we get into that now is affecting our self-esteem and all the things that come with kids being oversaturated and inundated with voices on that phone. And so that's what I do. I walk in the house. I'm like, were you consuming or creating today? And they know what that is. They're like, yeah, I did a lot of just scrolling, but I made this video online, or I looked up a YouTube video on how to make something, and I went and created something. And that's what I really want for my kids, is that this sense of creation, this sense of making something out of nothing, because that's so much of childhood, them being bored, kind of wandering and kind of stumbling into adventure or stumbling into making something, and, making them aware of that, giving them the space to do that. I mean, I just know for me too, I'm constantly asking myself on my phone, are you consuming? Are you creating? Like, are you just watching other people live their life, or are you bringing something to the table? Are you making their life better?
Yeah. And, for me, my kids don't have a phone in their hand yet.
Yeah.
But, I really started to gauge, what Jack was watching. He started watching stuff at 1.5 during COVID, when we were just stuck in our house. We were two people just working.
Yeah.
And so that was terrifying, because we could actually see that it was affecting him, YouTube and just staring at a screen, because what else were two working people supposed to do?
Yeah.
And that's when Ricky and I really realized the effect of kind of this short form, YouTube type stuff in front of him, and, taking that away and changing his behavior and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, now I'm realizing that I can consume kind of social media with Jack. We do it with him so that he
Mhm.
can have access to it,
Yeah.
but in very short amounts of time, and we get to tell him what he gets to watch.
Yeah.
He can watch the chocolate guy on TikTok, but we only do it 10 minutes
Yeah.
at a time. And he just doesn't have access to it,
Yeah.
But it's just like little pieces at a time. He understands what it is, and he sees that how I use it. I love creating reels. When I
Mhm.
went on a trip, I got to edit because that's the only way that I really like to edit.
Yeah.
It's really easy for me.
Yeah.
And, I get this little video that I get to show him, like, hey, look what I did on my trip. So he sees that I posted it on Instagram. This is something that I did, but I created.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, cool. That's what you did. Yes, this is what I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to gauge myself as well. And like, I'll sit there and I'll be scrolling like, what am I looking at right now? And for the most part, I'm usually like searching for things like food stuff
Yeah.
or like access to information.
Mhm.
But yeah, another thing that I realize as well is the acknowledgement that kids see of you on your phone. Like Jack will be like, Mom, can you please watch this movie with me?
Yeah.
And not, or, Ricky as well, and just be like, be present with me. Like, I really want
Yeah.
you to watch this movie with me. And it's like, throw your phone away. They can tell. And that's like a huge thing that you see
Mhm.
as well, is like they want your presence.
Yeah.
And that's a really big thing as well for us
Yeah.
too. And so it's just, they see you. They are seeing everything that
They're
you're
learning.
doing. Yeah.
Oh, this is how we do it. We watch a movie and we're on our phones. Okay, this is how we do it. And yeah, that's a tough line to walk. And I think as parents, we have to model that for our kids, and that can be tough because we as parents are still trying to kind of figure this out a little bit, how we balance this in our life. But yeah, we have these little sponges who are watching everything we do, and they're just soaking it up. And so yeah.
Well, something that you even brought to my attention, I forget how long ago it was the Florida House Bill 3.
Yes.
Florida House Bill 3, enacted in 2024, imposes restrictions on minors' access to social media platforms. Specifically, it prohibits children under 14 from creating accounts and requires parental consent for 14 and 15-year-olds. The law also mandates age verification systems and allows for the termination and non-compliant accounts. Allows for the termination of non-compliant accounts. So there you go.
Yeah, I think what's on everybody's mind is how do you enforce that? Yeah, I love all that, and I think it's a step in the right direction. But, it's guidelines,
Right.
Suggestions. No, we're not going to be able to enforce that, I think further down the road, we'll pass legislation that has a little more teeth to it, where it will be a little bit more like driving a car.
Yeah.
We have determined that when a child is 16, they're cognitively, physically able to steer a large metal object going 55, 65 miles down the road, and not, be a danger to society. There's all kinds of teaching and tests that you have to do to get your license. Like I would like to see more of those type elements added to social media with, does a therapist have to sit down and like do assessment of you when you're 16 to see if you're ready for social media. Like,
Yeah.
can you handle this? You know, do you know what this is about? Like, you know, I don't know, but I think, you know, we need to treat it a little bit more cautiously in how we have set up age ranges for alcohol and for driving,
Right.
you know. But I think it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Well, look, it's just, we've talked about this. This law at least gives you something to reinforce the argument with your kids.
Yeah.
To just be like, look, the government is saying it's
They're going to come lock mommy and daddy up.
my fault.
Right.
This is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to keep you safe. That's
Yeah.
what I tell Jack all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm just trying to keep you safe.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world if you don't get XYZ.
I think this should have happened 5 years ago, but I'm just glad it's happening now.
Well, every family is completely different. It's so situational. But we all, look, I understand that like a phone, these are all in our lives. It's necessary. It's super useful, especially with kids and sports and being picked up and, you know,
Yeah.
other people picking your kids up and stuff like that and just wanting to know where your kid is. I get it. But it's just a huge responsibility. It's freaking expensive.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you could lose it and you're just like, boom, it's gone. You're like, holy crap. But it's just like, in my head, I'm just like, I am okay with being the parent that, you know, with Jack just being like, I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
This is going to be for the betterment of you, and you're just not going to have access to that. Are you going to have one so that you can like text and call? Sure. And where I can know where you're at? Maybe?
Right.
Sure. And that you can maybe pay for things? Sure.
Yeah.
But like, I think you're going to be just fine if I am that, and you can be mad at me at first, but like me and my friends, we are so thankful that we were not in the era of having social media in high school, because I personally think that with my personality, and I don't think I would have been able to handle it. I already had enough just like jealousy and comparing yourself as a girl then. Oh my God. I don't know if I could have handled it.
Well, look, and you know, not only with what's happening at the federal level and state level, but now you're seeing schools ban phones, which I think is so good and so overdue. Like the idea, I can imagine being a teacher today.
Oh my God.
Trying to teach
the frustration
with these kids, you know, who are so addicted to their phones, and they're vibrating in their bag, they're beeping, they're sneaking a look at their phone.
And adults are too.
Exactly.
We are too.
And the fact that they are going to be taking phones out of our schools, I think is going to be so good for our education system and our kids. You know, so your kids now, Jack and Wes, when they go to middle school and high school, there's going to be rules
it's just
about
gonna be normal to them, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, for the longest time, it was this idea that, you know, because Columbine, things came out where there was a lot of scary stuff happening at school, and there still is. And the idea that you couldn't get in touch with your child, you know, we justified a lot of this out of safety and out of this need to be connected and know where your child is. But I think parents now are realizing that, you know, that is a false sense of safety, and the damage is happening with my kid being so on this phone far exceeds my ability to instantly communicate with my kid whenever I want to.
Right.
And so I think that balance and that kind of awareness has been huge. And I can't wait. I mean, they're doing it now in California and some other states, and they're already seeing like huge benefits from kids interacting more. And when you ask kids, they don't like it. I mean, it's a little bit of a little tough pill to swallow initially, but they get it.
Yeah.
You know, they get why this is important. And, you know, it's almost like our kids are begging us to like, help me figure this out. Take it away from me. Do whatever you need to do.
Right.
You know?
And this just all comes back to this initial kind of question that you have of, prescribing kids, that this question that you kind of have of, will we have to prescribe nature to our kids in the future?
Yeah.
And just to bring it back to the fact that these kids have this device that just makes them to themselves. They're a silo. They're alone with this thing that while they have access to everything, it's unhealthy for them.
Yeah.
And it brings it to that question that you've been asking, will we have to prescribe nature to our kids in the future?
Well, one of my favorite quotes from Richard Louv is, he talks about the more high tech we become, the more nature we need. And I think that's true. The more we become engrossed, and now we have AI, it becomes more obvious and apparent how much we need nature. The fact that we're so surrounded with tech. And yeah, I think about that. I've posed that question to any medical person I come in contact with.
What does that look like?
Exactly. And I think it spans to adults as well. I think this idea that, in the same way we would prescribe Ritalin to a child because he's out of control and he needs to be controlled and he's having issues, in the same way would we prescribe nature to this child? Would a doctor write a prescription and hand it to a parent and say, here's 2 hours of nature that your child needs because they're doing this or doing that. This is going to help.
They need to touch dirt, climb a tree.
Exactly. I've signed you up for the gardening package. He's going to be gardening. He's going to be doing this. And here you go.
Where do they go?
Exactly. Where do they go? Is the insurance going to cover this? Like, what does that look like? But I think that is where we're heading if we don't make it a priority to connect our kids with the outdoor world and all the benefits that come from kids being outside: bone structure, vitamin D, their teeth, their development, their ability to balance and just be a kid. Exposure to bacteria and things that get in dirt, helps our immune system, all the things that we know now that kids are lacking. And will that be a prescription one day? I mean, that kind of like, if I had a bunch of money, I would go buy some land in kind of a urban suburban area and create a place where parents could take their kid to, have those kind of experiences. But I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah. It's obviously scientifically proven. We know that being outside physically does something to your body. I mean, when a baby has jaundice, you literally put them out into the sun to get vitamin D to help them. We know that it does something to you. People have deficiencies and it does something to you. Like, we all know that when you stand at the top of a mountain and you look out at it, there is something physically happening to your body. You feel that surrealness of looking out. Of just like, I cannot believe that I am here right now looking out onto the planet. Like, it does something to you when you're doing that.
When a boy is playing video games, he's the center of his universe. He is the ruler and dominator. And when you put a little boy or a little girl out in the woods, they become very small.
And you need to feel small.
And you need to feel small. We all do. It gives you a sense of your place on this earth. And, if you want to raise a little selfish asshole, you'll not give them chores and you'll set them in front of the TV and let them do whatever the hell they want.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And that's, that's the value of, putting kids in a place where they feel small and they can get a sense of the world they live in and things they can't explain and can't conquer. That's a good place for our kids to be. It's a good place for all of us to be. It's a place of humility. It's a place of like connecting with something much bigger than we are. And it feels out of control and it feels a little uncomfortable sometimes, but that's where good things happen. Will we prescribe nature to our kids in the future? I think that's what I was trying to do with The Outsiders, was this sense of like, it wasn't a prescription, but it was like, here's what this looks like. Here's what and here's the benefits of having kids outside. One of the things that was really important to me in season 1 is I saw kids working with their hands, building something. And I remember talking with Eric Kraft, my art director, and he was wanting to make all these nice things. I'm like, no, like the kids need to make it. Like I want it to look like crap, and that's okay,
And I wasn't there for season 1.
Yeah.
I worked on some of the other seasons, but I kind of wanted to know, like, what was the most challenging aspect of that season for you guys?
Well, working with kids, and at the time, I remember being in a film school, and they're like, the most challenging thing you'll do is work with kids and animals.
Yeah.
And I found myself on a set working with both.
Oh boy.
And it was very difficult, very challenging, but so rewarding. I remember being out in the woods with those kids, and it's hot and sweaty and bugs, and they can't remember their lines, and they're frustrated. They're hungry. Their parents are, getting impatient. It was difficult. But when we got home and I got in that dark, cool room of the editing suite, and to hear their little voices and their little sweet faces on the screen, I was just like, I would just melt.
Just gold, TV gold.
Absolute TV gold. And anybody who's done anything difficult knows that, and we talk about this a lot, like when it's hard in the field, it's going to be good back at the studio when you look at it. So I think one of the things that stands out to me the most in season 1 was table time, which was we had this project table that I had Eric Kraft, my art director, build. I just loved it, man. It just looked like something kids would build. It was all nasty and painted weird and just stuff screwed everywhere.
Well, that brings that authenticity to it being by the kids.
Well, then I grew up with the Rascals, and everything was just so just wild that everything, they looked like they made their own clothes, right? Everything just looked so homemade by these kids, scrappy. And that's what I wanted to feel. That adults weren't allowed here. It was like a no adults allowed kind of space, and, but yeah, having kids like build things, aquariums, and, drill things and paint things and cut things. And, that's what I wanted families to see and kids to get excited about, is making things with their hands. And, but it was challenging, having kids who maybe have never used a drill before, or maybe never, used a hot glue gun or whatever it was, like getting them to use those was funky.
And just giving kids that freedom and telling them you can do stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like, oh, no, be careful. Those horrible words of like, oh, be careful.
Yeah.
No, man, you can do stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the drill. Let me show you how to use it.
Yeah.
But it's like you're allowing them to like do things again, and to hammer stuff, and to glue things. And if you mess up, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's art.
It's art. It's fine.
I think working with my son, Chase, those are just some really precious times that we had working together, accomplishing something together, the adventure of the show and where we were, and just production and working through lines. And, we got to really know each other at a different level through that. I think giving those kids who a lot of them have gone on to have incredible careers.
They really have.
Giving them that experience and opportunities, not only be on a scripted television show, but, be out in the woods and learn all the things they got to learn in the show.
Yeah. I mean, I bet that there's not a lot of opportunities like this. I have found that since casting. I mean, when we casted for this show, the line's out the door.
Yes.
I mean, people are just grasping for an opportunity not to do just voiceover or print here in Orlando.
Yeah.
So there's just an insane amount of people who want to do something like this here in this town.
Yeah.
And we found some amazing kids.
Orlando is kind of a small talent market. And so when we would have casting calls, like we would just get the best of the best who were here at that age, knowing that they're going to go on and do incredible things. Working with several of those kids, I'm just like, this is just a start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon, I didn't get to work with him, but he was on a Disney Channel show up in Vancouver for years.
He was an incredible talent.
Sela, she was on a CW show for a long time. Chloe is currently living in New York City on Broadway.
Yeah.
Deja, I saw that she's been on a bunch of movies
Yeah.
and television shows. Cooper, I mean, he was just our little Michael J. Fox. I mean,
No,
oh
he
my
was.
God, what an adorable kid. Hunter, he didn't go on to television, but he's like flying planes
Flying
now.
planes now. Yeah.
And Madison's in college up at University of Alabama.
Is he a day trader up in New York or what's?
Hey, but he has a very good presence, and I think that he got
Yeah.
all of his ability to talk to camera from being on the show. So that's one of the hardest things, to be a kid in an adult world on camera and to be memorizing lines. I mean, kudos to them, honestly.
Yeah. I was always just so impressed with their ability to be professional in very, difficult circumstances.
I mean, you have to do it, and to be
Yeah.
on like that
Yeah.
in Florida in the heat,
Yeah.
asking to ride a horse or whatever, it's not easy. It takes it out of
Well, and to be comedic, a lot of what
you.
I wrote and we created, we tried to make it funny.
To deliver a
yeah.
line. Yeah, it's not easy being
Well,
funny.
and I would encourage, a shameless plug here, but go and watch the shows. Sit down with your kids. There's 4 seasons up there, over 40 episodes, and watch them. I think this show plays really well for kids who are maybe 4, 5, 6 up to, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there.
Anybody can enjoy a state park.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any kid can watch this, and any parent can get an idea where to take their family.
Yeah, I mean, I was very proud. The show went on to win Emmys. It was acknowledged by Michelle Obama's Let's Move program.
So,
well, I wanted to ask you a question too, because you have young kids. What are you doing to protect your kids? I know you talk a lot about YouTube, and what specifically about YouTube is troubling for you?
When we were first just kind of letting Jack kind of have free reign of it, we obviously monitor it.
Yeah.
We have an open space house, so we can always kind of see what it is. And for the most part, he was just watching pretty, just kid-friendly things. But then it's short form, so it's kind of gets on these loops, and then it just kind of spirals into just these content creators are so high energetic. And then you get to the ads, which say things like, if you don't like and subscribe, your parents don't love you. Bing. And you're like, what?
Oh, gosh.
It says things like that?
Yeah. Wow.
And we would hear that and just be like, what is this? And it would just get into these content creators, and sometimes they'd be fishing, but their energy, it would rub off on Jack. And just, a 2.5-minute video over and over again.
Yeah.
Awful for your kid. And then we would read about that. And yeah, he would be really quick to anger and not have the attention span that he used to.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're reading now. And Ricky and I just completely cut it out. We undownloaded the app from the TVs, and we don't have pads anymore. We used to have the little Amazon pads that you could use for airplanes or car rides, or when you went to a restaurant or something. We don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
We just got rid of them. It's been great.
Yeah, I bet.
And we just, Wes doesn't even he's never asked for a phone, of just being like, oh, can I have your phone? Jack is still just like, can I watch this on your phone? So he's there. He's gotten that. But Wes is just oblivious to it, which we're so thankful for, because we've seen other kids in our friend groups kind of have that addiction for sure. But man, we're so glad that we kind of realized that and kind of ripped that out.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed inside when I was a kid. My friends weren't allowed inside. If they were, it was just to get a drink of water and then back out. My mom was she loved to be that house where kids came, but she would not hesitate to kick us out. Kids are muddy, they're stinky, you guys are sweaty. Get out of my clean house. Go. be outside where you belong. And I remember that. She's like, okay, that's enough. You guys get outside. You're sweating, you're stinky. It's just like, okay.
Anytime me and my friends would be over and we would say like, we're bored. My mom would go, I'll turn the sprinkler on.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, we don't have a bathing suit. She'd just be like, I don't care. Just get wet. She would just turn the sprinkler on.
You just said a word that like is not in our children's vocabulary. Bored.
Oh God, they need to be.
Like they don't know what that word is.
Yeah, it sucks because they can turn on a TV at any time because they have a streaming service.
There is no boredom anymore. Like even for adults, like, but for our kids, the fact that they are constantly being entertained. And I think as parents, we've kind of taken on that, this role of entertaining our children. And our parents didn't feel the need to entertain us at all. We entertained ourselves. And through that entertainment came imagination, creativity, adventure. And a lot of that's been stripped away by, kids being on their phones and being entertained by their phones, and they're requiring nothing of them.
Yeah.
And just you say that word bored or boredom is that's kind of a word we don't hear a lot. And I don't think our kids really know what that is. Or it's this tragic thing that like, I'm bored. And the parents today are like, okay, Johnny's bored. What do we do? What do we do? How are we going to fix this? Like, we can't have him bored. Maybe we can,
Yeah. And just being that like a millennial, I still had that childhood to where I was the one that could go outside and look up at the clouds, and that was me being bored. Go up and look at the clouds and try and find shapes. Or just like go get on your bike and ride around.
Yeah.
I still had that freedom because my parents weren't scared about us getting snatched. So I still had that childhood to where, oh, thank God, but oh man.
I remember telling my kids to go get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, like we would go out and we would get in trouble. We would trespass somewhere. We would, we'd be out, doing this and maybe throwing rocks or whatever, being boys, like, and at one point I was like, you kids have never been in trouble. You've never been chased by a neighborhood dog. You've never been like yelled at by an old man. Like, go out and get in trouble. I remember Christy's like, what? Why are you telling them to get in trouble? And I think Chase went out and actually got in trouble. And he's like, "Dad, you told me to get in trouble." I'm like, "All right, I did tell you that." I'm on record saying that. But the idea of that is that, when kids are out exploring, they are going to get in trouble. They're going to go in somebody else's yard.
They're going to test some boundaries. Like, what does that mean?
They're going to fish on the golf course lake and get run off by the groundskeeper. You know what I mean? Like. But those are some of the most exciting times, like running from that and like that adrenaline, like go, 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 go. And kids aren't having those experiences. They're having them playing Fortnite. Their boys are getting that adrenaline from video games. That's still inside of them, that element of risk and danger and threat, but it's being played out in a different setting. One of the things that Richard Louv talks about in his book is this perception that our kids are in danger more than they have been. And he talks about statistically our kids are safer today than they were 30 years ago. But the perception is they're not. And that's because of social media, because of 24-hour cable news that takes one situation and just blows it up and makes it feel like a norm when it's really not.
Right. The danger is really online.
Exactly. And so this whole, out of that came this kind of free range movement with parents, bucking against the system and saying, hey, I'm okay with, my kid going out and not being completely supervised or playing near the street or whatever. And, that's a decision every family has to make. What is that boundary? What are they comfortable letting their kid do? but every parent should know that your kid is safer today than they ever have been. And there's so many more reasons to give your child, I like to call it a controlled independence. And there's moments where you can kind of set that up for your child, where you can give them moments that feel independent, but they're a little controlled by you, maybe from a distance. And you begin to kind of build on that. And you as a parent become more comfortable with that. And the child becomes more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I remember doing that with Chase and Cooper, allowing them to go out in the boat or something, or allowing them to go out in the boat, out in the water. And I told them that I was going to be someplace else. So they got a sense that they were on their own, but I was around the corner with some binoculars watching them, until I felt comfortable. But those are important experiences that kids need to have, that feeling of being independent and, figuring out things on their own. That's important for them to, build that self-confidence.
And having that trust from their parent too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they trust me. And maybe that gives them the sense of like, okay, I'll follow the rules. I'll do the right thing.
Yeah.
And, so that they can keep doing it.
Well, I think a lot of what our kids are suffering from today is this lack of confidence, the lack of, accomplishment. And when a child is able to do something independently, whether it's walk to school or ride their bike to a friend's house or, whatever that is the building blocks of that child's confidence being built up, that is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger each time they have those experiences. And if they're not able to do that, or they're told that, you're going to get snatched, or everybody's trying to get you, that really is a message that child should walk around in fear.
Yeah.
Of like, someone's going to grab me. And that's just not common. Most abductions that happen from children are from relatives or people they know close.
Exactly.
Not just some random guy in a white van. Does it happen? Absolutely. But it is very rare. But it's hard to see that because our media is so, that kind of headline sells. If I'm in the business of getting people to watch my news outlet, I'm looking for what scares the crap out of parents. And that is the idea that something happened to my child. And they'll run with that until they can't run anymore, because that gets our attention.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot on this episode about a wide range of topics, but all centering around, the origins of the creation of the Outsiders Club,
right?
Which is a half-hour television show, multiple seasons. I really want to encourage people to go and watch it.
Yeah.
I think there's so much there that you can learn together with your kids. Sit down and watch it with your family. And I highly recommend just starting small. Find some places around you that you're comfortable with, that you can have those outdoor experiences. Could be a state park, could be a county park. And then build on that, expand even further out and go, a couple counties over and begin to have experiences that are more adventurous, that are longer. And you'll build that confidence, and you'll build that sense of figuring out, what does this look like for your family? Are you campers? Are you not campers? Are you hikers? Are you canoers? Do you like to fish? Do you like to play sports? Whatever that is, you'll find that as a family, and, be consistent about it and make that a part of what you guys do together. Because if a parent is a place where they can't get their child out, and that child is so addicted and so ingrained in social media and screens, and they can't coerce them to come outside, there's a real problem there that they need to address. And, it takes effort. It takes intentionality, way more than it did with our parents, but this is where we're at. This is what you kind of have to do. And but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, and that's what I've done with my family. And Jack is so excited to go to Wakaiwa and find fish in the springs. And all of these episodes, all 40 of them, are on Discover Florida channel. That's where you can watch them. And there's a plethora of different types of scenarios and activities for, just like you said, anybody to be able to watch and enjoy.
Like we say in the show, keep it outside.
Keep it outside.
Sunshine Junkie is a production of Crawford Entertainment